Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Toylist of Titles. My name is Justin Stevens, and I am going to be breaking down the Frankenstank Listeners League for you all this morning. So the Frankenstank Listeners League is something that John and I and Nate kind of all threw together, and we've created the crazy, funky, different type of league. It's not like any other league you've ever experienced before. We've created all the rules ourselves, and we've kind of pieced together bits and pieces of other types of leagues, other styles of leagues, and we threw together what we call the Frankenstank League. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more in detail for you in a bit. I'm also going to break down all of the teams and their drafts and some of the things that I like and don't like about every single team, and kind of a week one preview for each one as well. I've broken it down into their matchup to do the breakdowns. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you that you can catch us at Toy Listed Titles. You can catch Nate at Nate_Dirt19. John is at Coach Sheps, and then of course myself at JustinFF_. You can catch our normal episodes pretty much anywhere: Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, and Periscope. These special bonus editions only go out on YouTube and Periscope. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, well, you wouldn't be listening to this one because it's a bonus episode. So never mind, I'll save that for the episode we're going to be recording tomorrow night. Speaking of which, make sure to tune in tomorrow night. We're not exactly for sure what time just yet, but we are going to announce it on Twitter. But tomorrow night's episode is going to be our first Week 1 weekly breakdown of the season, and I'm excited about it because we finally have football, people. It's going to be an interesting show, to say the least. It's our first real, absolutely organized show that we're taking time to break down each individual section, so it'll be interesting. So make sure to tune in to check us out tomorrow night. If you miss us tomorrow night, then it should drop Wednesday morning, and that's hopefully going to be the schedule every week from here on out. Hopefully just one show a week, plus we might add in a few extra bonus episodes for the YouTube followers themselves. Make sure you go back and check out all of our team breakdowns. Right now we are only 2 teams away from finishing up the AFC West. We have already finished the AFC South and AFC North, and we have 2 teams done in the NFC East. Doesn't look like we're going to get them all done, but at least if your team is in one of those divisions, you can go back and check it out. All right, so back to the Frankenstank League. So the Frankenstank League was an extremely different style league that we decided we wanted to throw together, and we're hoping to be able to do this year over year and grow it into something bigger, maybe tweak a few rules here and there to make it a little better. We started it off right off the bat with doing a rock, paper, scissors competition to determine draft order, and then from there we rolled into a very unique draft. It was a 14-team league. If you drafted first, you were only drafting rookies in the first 2 rounds. Well, everybody was only drafting rookies in the first 2 rounds. So if you drafted first, you got the best rookie in the draft, and then the last rookie in the draft, so number 28. But if you were the last, 14th pick, then you got to be the first one to pick a guy like CMC, non-quarterback veterans. And then if you were first in the rookie draft, you got to be the first one to draft a veteran quarterback in the 4th round. So I'm not going to go into extreme details on that, but just to give you an idea, that's why we called it the Frankenstank League, because you're slowly piecing together your team one body part at a time. Your monster is being built in a very particular order, in other words. But after round 4, it was a free-for-all. You could draft whoever you wanted to. Now, one unique rule, not totally unique because it's kind of like a vampire league or a pirate league or whatever you want to call it, pink slip league. You can lose players throughout the season by losing to your opponent. If you lose to your opponent, they can select one player from your starting lineup to steal from you, and they give you back the jump player that was sitting on their bench. So it's very important and pivotal that you win week 1 in a league like this. So that's why I broke down these breakdowns the way I did. I broke it down according to matchup. So the first matchup I had down here was the fantasy football free agent, Mike Jernigan at Mike Jernigan 79 versus George Reed, who is at BFTG Pod. That's from the grind, an amazing podcast. But so two friends of the show right out the gate get to play in week one. And I gave Mike Jernigan a B+ on his draft. And here's why. He's going to start off with Carson Wentz and Phil Rivers as his quarterback in a super flex. And I don't think that that's a horrible start, especially with Rivers playing against Jacksonville in week one. I think that he has an opportunity to put up some big points right out the gate with that explosive offense. I did knock him down a little bit because his wide receivers are Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, and Jamison Crowder. Of course, Jamison Crowder has Darnold throwing to him. He should be a PPR monster, though, so I can kind of see where he might be able to do something as a wide receiver too. But they also brought in Denzel Mims, a rookie wide receiver. They brought Perriman in, so there's other competition there. So we don't know for sure that Crowder is going to still be the PPR monster that he has been for Darnold. And then Curtis Samuel has Robbie Anderson there now, and Robbie seems to be really picking up that offense and playing really well. So I kind of gave him a little bit of a knock there because we don't know what's going on. So his wide receiving core is just a little bit subpar. And then his second flex is most likely going to be Duke Johnson. Not really excited about that one either, even though I love Duke Johnson. He's always done well when given the opportunity. They just don't ever want to give him the opportunity. They just made that big trade from giving up Hopkins to get David Johnson. I don't see them pissing off their fans by not giving the ball a lot to David Johnson, at least to start the season. So that's the only reason he got a plus, maybe a B. But George had a pretty decent draft. The big question marks for him also is his wide receivers, because he is starting Bryan Edwards and N'Keal Harry. We don't know what's going to happen right there in either of those offenses with either of those guys. With Cam Newton there, you would like to think that N'Keal Harry is going to get a bump, but we still need to see it first. And Bryan Edwards is a rookie, but it looks like he's going to be the guy. It looks like he's going to be the guy that fills in for Tyrell Williams, and I'm kind of excited about that. I did get a lot of share of Edwards and picked him up in a lot more after the news broke that Williams wasn't going to play on that torn labrum. So kind of excited about that. Overall, I've got to give George the same amount of love. I'm going to give him a B+, maybe a B. I do not like his bench quite as well, but overall, I think that would be a good matchup. Next up, we've got Shane against Ben, and Ben is at Live from the Ben. Shane, of course, is at Shane P. Hallam. So a friend of the show and a listener going head-to-head in week one. They had an incredible draft. Both of them really did really well here. As much as I hate to admit it, they both blew mine out of the water. I only gave Shane a little bit of a knock on his bench. He doesn't really have much to speak of in his bench, but his starting lineup is so good that he'll start stealing players early, and then he won't really need any of those guys on his bench. But he's starting off with Kyler Murray, Connor, Drake, Hopkins, Juju, Sutton, Hunter Henry, who at least will be healthy for week one, Irv Smith, Emmanuel Sanders, and Burrow. So I expect all of those guys to come out the gate doing pretty well for the position that he drafted them at. So that's not a bad starting lineup. And then Live from the Ben's team, who probably both of those guys, you guys need to come up with more creative names. Come on now. It's a monstrous league. This is the Frankenstank league. Come up with monster names, guys. But he's got Watson. So what is that? The big name that people like to use, Watson. Deshaun of the Dead. There you go. Just use that one. It's all played out, but you've got Deshaun Watson. Go for it. At least until you lose him in a lost game. But Miles Sanders, Chris Carson. Then you got Evans, Brandon Cooks, Keenan Allen, Lynn Waller. His flex are Cam Akers and Tevin Coleman, Baker Mayfield at the super flex. I mean, this is a really good team, a really tight team. And then he's even got somewhat of a decent bench now that Armstead is potentially going to get a lot of carries. And Chenault, he's got Chenault there too, who could also carry the ball. Kirk and Tyrod on his bench. So both of these are pretty solid teams. I couldn't find too much to knock, so I gave both of them an A. Now the next guy did come up with a nice creative name, and that's Matt Chu. His team name is Monster Mash. The Matt you can find Matt at Matt CHHOO at Chu with 2 H's and 2 O's. I gave him an A-. I knocked him just a little bit because his quarterbacks aren't the greatest. He's got a little bit of a weakness there with Derek Carr and Daniel Jones. So I mean, they're not bad. Don't get me wrong, they're not bad, but they're just not how I would want to start a league like this necessarily at the quarterback position. But the reason that they look so bad is because he was able to do so well everywhere else. He's got Saquon and Jacobs as his running backs. His wide receivers are OBJ, Shark, Ruggs. He's got Evan Ingram at tight end. Mike Williams could potentially be a PPR guy again, and then Breida at the other flex. So I'm not aggressively excited about Breida as your number 2 flex, but it's also just your number 2 flex in a 14-team league, so it's really not that bad. His bench is actually pretty decent. He's got Preston Williams, Campbell, Damian Harris, who now potentially becomes a thing again. So with Lamar Miller getting cut, so and especially if Sony isn't healthy to start the season. But I gave him an A-. Would have been a little better if he could have somehow squeaked out a little bit better quarterback there. I know it seems like I'm giving pretty generous grades here, but to start off with, it looks like I started with some of the better teams. You do get some B's down the road, but I think everybody did extremely well. I don't think anybody got a C in this draft. So, but anyway, we got Justin Toe next at DC94fan. His team name is Vlad the Impaler, so that's pretty wicked. I like that one. Lamar Jackson, you can't go wrong with Lamar Jackson. As a matter of fact, his whole team is pretty good for a 14-team league. Jordan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Kupp, Lockett, Marvin Jones as your wide receiver 3 is a good deal there. Jared Cook, but 14 teams, and he waited on tight end, got him at a good value, so I'm okay with that too. Mostert as your flex 1 and your flex 2 is AJ Green, so that's a pretty good flex combo. The only reason he drops from an A+ to an A here is because for some reason he has Jared Goff. I don't care if you're in a 32-team league. I'd find a way to start another guy. Jared Goff is not good at football. I will stand by that. I will die on that hill. I do not like Jared Goff. But if he wins week 1 against Matthew, oh, well, never mind. Matthew is the guy that I just said doesn't have very good quarterbacks, so maybe you'll have to wait till week 2. Let's see. No, Steve, you have not missed your team yet. It's coming up. And Jonathan Taylor. Sorry, my bad. Okay. That's maybe he has a younger brother named Jordan Taylor. I don't know. But I'll give Vlad the Impaler an A. All right. Next is Mark Bull versus Chris. Chris's team name is Schwanksville Gingers. Now, I'm going to give him a pass on this team name because I don't really know what that has to do with the monster theme, but I will say that everybody are horrified of gingers. So I guess we'll qualify it. So he's the Schwanksville Gingers, and I Googled it. I think that's like a small town in Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's where he's from or what, but it's a decent little team name. I like it. At TTSO_Chris. He had a pretty solid for the most part. His wide receivers are a little weak, which also makes his flex pretty weak, and he doesn't have a great bench. So altogether, I'm going to give him a B here. But he does have Pat Mahomes, which is going to help make up for a lot. He's got Chubb and CEH at running back. Woods and Allen Robinson are a great wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 combo. Then it's where it gets a little a few question marks with his wide receivers. His wide receiver 3/flex 1 and flex 2 are all wide receivers that are going to kind of be boom or bust at best. I don't see a lot of consistency there, but it's Lazard, Marquise Brown, and Mecole Hardman. You just don't really know. But if one of them blows up in this point system, because in this point system, like I said, it's different than most leagues. In this point system, for every touchdown, or for the first touchdown you get 3 points. The second touchdown is 6. The next one is 9, and it's 9 after that. It's just like Frankenstein. You're building your monster, right? You're also building your points as the game goes. So you start off with only a few small points per yard, or less than a point per yard, or less than 0.1 per yard, or something like that. And then after you get so many yards, it becomes a full point per yard, and then it's a 1.5 per yard, and it just progressively grows. So if one of these receivers has a big game, you got a boom or bust kind of wide receiver core, then you could potentially get huge points there. So I guess I'll give him credit for that. That has to be what he was looking at. But still, a lot of question marks there, so I'm going to go with a B. Franchise 13, that team name obviously needs some work. But that's at Mark Bullshire. I can never say that correct. It's MarkBullishere. But that's Mark Bull. He's one of our Australian buddies, and he did a pretty decent job at the draft at the time. Unfortunately, since the draft, I'm starting to have more question marks about it, because he went with Brady and Zeke, Julio, Thielen, Landry, Edelman, Golden Tate, Cousins, all great picks for a 14 team league. His RB2 right now is Vaughn, and obviously with the news of Fournette going to Tampa Bay, we don't know how much of a split that's going to be. I don't think I like that pick nearly as much as I did when we had the draft. And then Ian Thomas also, I'm not hearing great reports about his performance in camp right now, so it kind of knocks him back. He doesn't have a great bench either, so I'm going to give Bull a B+ here. All right, next is myself and John. So here we go. Obviously, there's a little bit of bias here, but obviously, and I've already gone over our Twitter handles, but John's team name is Wolfman Coverage, because he's got the longer hair, he's got the facial hair, and he is more of a DB, well, actually a safety type guy, so he likes that Wolfman coverage back there. So. And then my team name is Phantom of the Gridiron, because, again, I'm not very original either, but it worked, and it was easy to create a team logo for me. But I've got Drew Brees and Michael Thomas as my stack. You guys know in redrafts I love to have stacks. I'm always seeking the stacks. I've got Monty as my RB2. I'm not completely upset with that. I hope that he plays in week 1. If he doesn't, I'm completely screwed. I don't have much of a chance, because I had Fournette. I was excited about that. Now we don't know what that split's going to look like. I do have John Brown and Will Fuller, who could have big week 1s, and hopefully they do, along with Mark Andrews to help. But altogether, I give myself a B-, and that's the worst grade that I've given so far, and it's going to be tied for the worst grade that I give. But I'm not excited about my team. I was more excited about Steve Sims when I drafted him where I did. But now it looks like I'm going to have to rely on him because of all the injuries. It's not looking good for me. So I'm giving myself a B- going up against John. The good news is, though, is that I've also given John a B- as well. So the worst grade that I've given to myself, I'm also giving to John. So we have a shot at cannibalizing each other right out the gate in our own league that we've created. So this is either going to be really good for one of us or really bad for the other, most likely both. But John has Matt Ryan, who I do expect to have a big season. Amari Cooper is going to be a boom or bust kind of guy. We don't really know what to expect with him, but I do think he's going to have a good season overall. But in a format like this, your opponent is hoping that he has the down game right out the gate. Chris Godwin should be consistent. Tyreek Hill, I think, is going to be more of a consistent option, especially in the format, like I said, where the points stack as the game goes. He's a big play kind of guy, so he could get the big points. along with Amari Cooper, really. Slayton is going to be consistent. I think he's going to be, but he's going to be relying on Teddy Bridgewater in his super flex, Swift in his flex 2, if I'm setting his lineup correctly in my head. You all know that I'm really down on Lindsey and Rojo, who are his RB1 and R2. So his running backs, his flex, his super flex, none of that is great, and the others are boom or bust for the most part. So I think I might have a chance. John and I both have B minuses, and we have a shot at so whichever one of us win this game can cannibalize and steal a player off of the other one, giving the winner of this one a chance to hopefully survive a little longer in this league. I did not appreciate drafting from the middle of the draft, so that I've got some crazy comments here. What do we got? Yeah, Steve says week 1, if him and Joshua win, they play each other in week 2. That should make for a nice matchup. That'll be fun. Giving out A's before seeing my team. Bold. Gonna have to break out the S. But yeah, well, I mean, S for what? S for satisfactory. John says that Amari Cooper is his wide receiver 3. And I can see him. Yeah, definitely. He's your wide receiver 3. But Godwin's the only one that I would say is definitely going to have a huge game. I mean, we don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Steve, you're dreaming. All right, you guys just continue with the trash talking here, and I'll get caught up at the end because I was on a good roll here. I was flying through. So next is Nate and Joshua. Of course, we all know Nate. Nate at Nate_Dirt19, our co-host. And I haven't been going over the point spreads, but he is an 8.8 point favorite right now over Joshua. And I gave him less of a grade than Joshua too, so it could be interesting. But where I think that Nate lacks is his tight ends and that flex position. He's got Dobbins in that flex position. He got Goddard as his tight end, so he's got a backup tight end as the number 1 tight end. We all know that Goddard is capable of touchdowns in big games in any given moment, but we also know that he's bound to have some bad games as well. Sternberger is really his only bench player to mention, and most people would not even mention him. But you all know that I'm big on Sternberger, so that's the only reason I think he's mentionable. But since most people aren't as high on him as me, I'm giving his bench a downgrade. But overall, I gave him a B+ on his draft here, so I had him ranked higher than myself or John at least. Let's see, he has Russell Wilson, Mixon, James White, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf as your wide receiver 3 in a 14-team league is actually pretty good. And then, so those are all pretty strong players in my mind. So that's why that helps make up for that tight end and that bench, in my opinion. Joshua has probably the best team name in the league. I'll give him that. He's the Demonic Infusion. And of course, we all know Joshua comes to us from Fusion Fantasy Football. So it's fusionffb.com, at fusionffb on Twitter. So he incorporated his product, his game. He incorporated that into his team name. Brand. That's what I was looking for. He incorporated his brand. He's got Stafford and Minshew as his quarterback. So I do think Stafford's going to have a big year this year. You all know I don't like Minshew at all, and that was the only aspect of his team that I knocked down a little bit was Minshew in the Superflex. And Joshua would argue all day that Minshew wears a golden jockstrap, and he doesn't need a team around him because he's just going to hover like a fairy and fly over top of the rest of the field all the way to the end zone and set down the ball right there in the end zone, and then chug a Bud Light in the corner of the end zone because he's like some god. But no, Minshew sucks. I don't like Minshew. But other than that, I love this team. Derrick Henry, Melvin Gordon, and then his wide receivers, he's got Gallup, Diggs, and Debo. There's not a clear-cut wide receiver one there, but I think they're all solid wide receiver twos, so it kind of helps balance out. Jonnu Smith in a 14-team league, I like it, and he really likes it too. But Deshaun Jackson, that one is a little bit iffy just because he's like 87 years old, boomer bust player. And then Gurley right there at the flex. But overall, I still give him an A because that was an incredible draft. And yes, I hand out A's like that candy, so don't take all this too much to heart. The final matchup, just because I knew Steve would be late getting on here. I know I didn't announce it. It's okay. But we got Richard versus Steve. Richard is at R. Gonzalez RM. His name is the Frito Banditos. I don't know if any of you remember that or not. I had to Google it, and it did kind of send a refresher to me, but that is the bandit that steals the Fritos chips in the old-time commercials. So that was pretty a pretty good reach there, but I think that he uses that team name in a lot of different places. Not really monster themed, but it's creative, so I'll give it to him. All right, so again, he had a great draft. His bench leaves a little bit to want. Like, there's not really a whole lot there on the bench. Does have Lynn Bowden, and that's about it. He's been traded to Miami. Kind of makes you wonder why they would trade away Bowden to get back a draft pick that's lower than the one that they spent to get him. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if they just decided that they don't have a specific plan for him or a need for him anymore. Maybe they drafted all those wide receivers hoping that they would find the two that they really needed, and they did with Ruggs and the guy I just mentioned a few minutes ago that I really like and now suddenly can't remember because I can't remember anything in my life. But anyway, we've got Dak as his starting quarterback, Bell, Eckler as his running backs, which is a pretty good 1-2 combo in this format because you get a lot of opportunity out of those guys. Galladay, Parker, and CeeDee Lamb are his wide receivers. You like Galladay as a wide receiver one. You like CeeDee Lamb and Parker to be a decent wide receiver 2 combo there. Let's see. But then Hurst as your tight end isn't horrible. Singletary is a decent flex, especially with Moss being banged up right now. Noah Fant as your other flex. At least that's my consideration. Obviously, normally you don't want a tight end to be flex, but in this case, at least it's a decent flex, a decent tight end to be going on. The super flex and that bench, the reason I knocked him down again, he has Darnold, and I think I probably would have just assumed not draft another quarterback than to draft Darnold. I'm going to give you an A- there, but I think that Darnold's going to really hurt you coming out the gate because you are going up against one of the best drafts in this league, and I hate to balloon his head up any more than it already is, but Steve, his team name is Uncle Steve's Spare Parts. Y'all already know this, but Steve is my uncle. He's a big supporter of the show, and he is a 7.2-point favorite over Richard going into week 1. I'm giving Steve an A here because even his bench is pretty decent. But he also drafted a bunch of guys that I like too, so obviously maybe there's that a little bit of a bias there as well. But he's got Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy G. That's his quarterback in his super flex. That's pretty good for a 14-team league. I really like it, especially with this score format with Rodgers with his big potentials. He was the guy that lucked into getting the draft pick that was able to take CMC. He got Gibson a little bit later, which has turned out to be really good. That's helped him out quite a bit now that AP is gone. He's got a nice stack again. You guys know I love these stacks. He's got a stack with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. So Adams, that's his wide receiver 1. His wide receiver 2 and 3 are both potentially wide receiver 2s with wide receiver 1 potential each week, and that's A.J. Brown and Terry McLaurin. Higbee as your tight end is solid. Sammy Watkins, I think. The reason I like Sammy Watkins in this position is because of this format. They're playing Houston in week 1. That's going to be a big scoring game, guys. I don't know what the over is, but bet the over because they're going to score high points. When these two teams get together, that's just what happens. So if they're going to score a lot of points, and it's week 1, so you would think that Sammy's going to be healthy, right? I mean, you would like to think he can at least make it through one game. So he could get big points out of him right out the gate. The only little knock that he might have is that second flex position, and that's just because we don't know what's going on with Sony Michel. We don't know if he's going to be healthy or not, and he may have to make a game time decision on that, whether it's going to be Sony Michel or, say, Malcolm Brown, Adrian Peterson, or maybe even Jarwin in there at your flex. So at least he's got options. Again, that bench helps make up for that second flex spot. So I do think that Steve has one of the better drafted teams. And that is your breakdown for the Frankenstank League. So, again, I want to remind you guys to check us out live tomorrow night. It's going to be somewhere between 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The guys and I haven't really set that. But that's going to be our weekly format. What you see tomorrow night is going to be our weekly format. If you miss it live tomorrow night, it'll air Wednesday morning. And again, it's the same show, so that'll be your weekly format. A lot of people, you might wait until Wednesday morning to watch it. That's cool too. If you wait until after the show Tuesday night, then again you can hear us on our other formats on the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, that sort of thing. Right now you're watching us on YouTube and Periscope, which is where we will be live tomorrow. Catch us at Toyless Titles, at Coach Sheps, at Nate_Dirt19, and at JustinFF_. I'm looking forward to the Frankenstank League, guys. Not going to lie. I think it'll be a heck of a lot of fun. Hopefully it's successful. Hopefully we can build on it. And like I said, hopefully maybe next season we have a second league, maybe a creature from the Black Lagoon League and the Frankenstank League, or Dracula League, or whatever. And we can have the two champions face off in week 17 or something for a overall monster victory. I don't know what you want to call it, but we'll think of something. But hopefully we can grow this thing, and we appreciate you guys joining. Appreciate you guys being a part of this new venture, this new league, and not just the league, but the podcast in general. It's been a whirlwind. We've gotten quite a bit of support, like mad crazy support that we never would have expected from a lot of people. So you guys are awesome. You guys are what motivates us. Please check out those breakdowns, those team breakdowns, if you would, if you haven't already. And like always, just keep loving each other.